Hello, and welcome to this HelloID provisioning product release video for April 2022. HelloID provisioning is a 100% born-in-the-cloud, easy-to-configure and maintain user provisioning solution. It helps organizations to fully automate the user lifecycle management in the network by connecting the HR or SIS as a source system. Every change in this source is detected and processed into the network. No more worries about stale user accounts, accumulation of licenses or access rights, manual user management, or compliancy issues. Please note that in this video, we will only show the new functionality for the April 2022 release. Please go to docs.helloid.com or our YouTube channel for more videos. Let's get started. In this video, we'd like to start with a PowerPoint presentation and then demo the new functionalities for the April 2022 release. We have one new item in this release: person aggregation with approval. In addition to the already available manual person aggregation, we now have taken the second step in this functionality, which includes the semi-automatic aggregation based on an approval step. With this new feature, HelloID will try to provide aggregation suggestions about newly imported persons with a possible match based on a customer-specific aggregation logic, which can be configured from the source system configuration. Let's see how this new feature works in detail. This new functionality can be found as a sub-item called aggregation, which is underneath the source menu. In this screen, we have changed the layout a bit by extending the screen with some new tabs. In this one, we can configure the aggregation config, and the config needs to be enabled before any suggestions will be made. To enable it, we go to the Configuration tab, and there you can enable the Aggregation Suggestion toggle. We also have to configure a score from which a person will get a possible suggestion if the calculated score is above the value of the configured threshold. The matching threshold in this case is 90%. We have also introduced a setting to configure the maximum amount of suggested persons to be determined, so in case a person has more possible suggestions than the configured value, HelloID will not make a suggestion for this person. This can be caused by an incorrect configuration of the aggregation config, which will be done on the source system's complex mapping. From the preview, we can get an overview of persons that have a possible match based on the selected person. In this case, Amir is the selected person, and underneath is a list of other persons. From this list, there are two persons that have a matching score of 100%. Meaning these could be possible matches related to the selected person. When we change the matching score to be a bit lower, let's take 30%, you can see that the redetermination on this screen will update automatically and contains more suggestions that could be related to Amir. It's not always the case, but this is how the matching score impacts the aggregation config. From the suggestion screen, you can also see an aggregation value or an aggregation string. And this aggregation string has to be configured from the source system. We have two possible source systems here, and inside the source, the Person tab has a new field called Aggregation. Aggregation is the calculations based on some concatenated attribute values. A simple script is provided by default, which will contain a simple aggregation config, but most likely this needs to be changed to customer-specific configuration based on the requirements of their source data. A small note on this is that the actual field length of this attribute is limited to 200 characters. You can run a preview to see the outcome of the aggregation, and in this case, this is the aggregation string from Amir, and this aggregation string is built up from the initials of the person, the last name of the person, and furthermore, we use the birth date, place of birth, and the gender. And if we concatenate this in one string, we get this as the outcome. With this aggregation functionality, we have also introduced the usage of the delete diacritical marks function. This wasn't available in source mapping before and could only be used in the mapping of a target system, but with the aggregation introduction, we also introduced the remove diacritical marks from the source. A side note on this aggregation is that it only applies on new imported persons after the configuration has been set, and a new person with suggestions will be blocked from processing until an approval or reject from the suggestion has been given. So if we go over to the aggregation overview, you can see that here are a lot of persons with possible matches where approving or rejecting a person's suggestion can be done using the approve or reject buttons. Once an approval has been made, this person keeps continuing and also can be included in the processes, and when it's rejected, the person is excluded. Before you can approve a possible match, you have to identify which of the possible matches could be a leading person. In our case, this one is the leading person, which can switch over to another one by switching one of these toggles. You can also have a person in here that could be a possible match, but in reality isn't. So to remove this person, you can exclude it from the list, and once you approve, only the first two persons will get merged into one. The Redetermine button is used to run a redetermine step over all persons in case these persons were already in the vault before the aggregation functionality has been activated. But be careful when running this process because it can take a while based on the total amount of persons. You will also get a warning message if you try to run the redetermination. Once you confirm this, it will start redetermining all the possible suggestions and it will update this screen. A note on this is that because it might take a while, the manual aggregation is not possible during the process of redetermination. So once a redetermination process is running, it is not possible to manually aggregate the persons upon or in each other. Another small change we made is the labels. We introduced the labels for a suggestion to see if the person is merged. And with this change, we also changed the layout of the person's screen. So from the person screen before, you used to have an option to manually exclude or re-include the person. This has been deprecated and moved over to the exclusion screen because of the labels for the suggestion and merge. If we go to the exclusion screen, you can see the same functionality as it was before, and here you have the option to manage if you include or exclude a person. In here, we also have the person details, in which you can check which person has been merged with another person's contract. Another functionality that we have introduced with this new feature is the log information. The logging information about aggregation has been set to Elastic. In this way, there is a way to generate reports about the behavior of the aggregation approval, and there will be a record about whether it has been approved or denied, which contains the score on the aggregation threshold, the user which provided the feedback by approving or rejecting, and in this case, we can also use this information to tweak the settings of the aggregation config. Thank you so much for watching. Please let us know if you have any additional questions. You can post your question in YouTube or send it to isupport@toolsforever.com. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to receive frequent updates about improvements and changes in HelloID. Have a wonderful day.